Hey guys, it's David. I want to talk to you guys about a part of the acting industry that I've kind of overlooked because I kind of want you guys to avoid it. So it's really not about what to do, it's about what not to do, which can be as important as what to do because you can waste so much time, effort, and money on things that generate no results as easily as you can doing things that generate tremendous results. So anyway, without further ado, I want to talk about this side of the industry that basically is designed to make themselves rich but not really make actors rich. And this applies in particular to actors in Los Angeles and New York, where they're most highly concentrated. But also it applies to any other city where there's a fair number of casting directors, agents, or production going on, because there are going to be large concentrations of actors in these places, and where there are large concentrations of actors, you will find people trying to make money off them. So without further ado, there's one other aspect to the acting business that I forgot to cover. And that is the somewhat seedy underbelly that I like to refer to as the actor vampires. I call them that because they will suck both the life and money out of you if you let them, leaving you with nothing but shattered dreams, broken promises, and of course an empty wallet, in particular an empty wallet. Now, like I said before, in Los Angeles in particular, but they can be found in smaller quantities all over the world, there's an industry that exists that is portrayed as offering newer actors a chance to get access to industry professionals. And what comprises this industry are casting director workshops, agent workshops, actor showcases, headshot photographers to a lesser extent, mailing companies, drop-off companies, and anyone else that sells services to actors. Because, I mean, aside from acting teachers, and they also can fall into this category, but I mean, a lot of these things are not necessary to have an acting career. So anything that's not absolutely necessary to having an acting career would fall under the category of potentially being an actor vampire. And anyone else who charges a fee to actors for just about anything. Now, some of them are innocent, or at least somewhat innocent, meaning that they don't know they're vampires. And some of them are not so innocent, meaning that they know their services make them a lot more money than the actors they supposedly are helping. The main example of these services, and the one that's generated the greatest controversy, especially in Los Angeles, is the casting director workshop business. This industry provides the opportunity for an actor to meet a casting director in a third-party location because they're put on by outside companies that bring these casting directors together. And there's a fee of anywhere from $40 to $300 that the actor pays, depending on how long the vampire is attached to you, sucking the life from you. And what I mean, like for $300, you might get an all-day workshop, or who knows, maybe even 2 days if you're lucky, where you would meet multiple people. And what happens is you perform a scene for a casting director, and if you're lucky, they might even speak to you. The problem with this type of business is that it was never designed to help actors make more money. It was designed to make the workshop organizer and the casting director or agent or producer, director, whoever it is that's attending the workshop, it's designed to make them as much money as possible. After all, it is a casting director's job to meet new actors. So if they can spare the time to meet them in the evening for an extra $300 or so, then I guess they have spare time on their hands and could probably meet them at their offices. But that wouldn't be as lucrative to the casting director. Now, I'm not exactly sure how their employers, meaning producers, feel about these things, because frankly, casting directors are normally hired by producers to do a job. And if they're in the middle of casting a show, and yet they can find an extra 3 hours or 4 hours in the evening to go see a bunch of newbie actors, who most of which have never worked before, then they could have probably put that time into working on their project, maybe going to see some professional plays or watching some short films or whatever to actually find some serious actors that they might be able to cast. Because for the most part, you're not going to find truly professional actors at these workshops. In fact, I have seen some actors that really are just signaling to the casting directors, don't call me in. I mean, they're basically just getting up there and not doing good work, and they have no chance to be called in. So I don't know how the producers feel about this stuff, but to be honest, I'm probably guessing they're too busy to care, or they just don't want to get involved in it, even if they think it's not a good idea. Anyway, there's also enough actors out there who support these things because they see them as a shortcut to meeting casting directors. It's more like a shortcut, though, to donating their money. Now, while I'm not saying that you should not do any workshops of any kind under any circumstance, just be aware of why they exist and who is benefiting from them the most. So let's put on your forensic accountant hat and follow the money trail, shall we? Let's do the math. Let's assume that out of 20 actors that attend a workshop, 2 or 10% of the actors get called in for an audition. Now, to be honest, the true number is probably way lower than that. I would say maybe 0.25 actors out of 20. So instead of 10%, it would probably be 5% of the actors get called in. But just for the purposes of argument, so no one says, oh, that's too low, I'm going to go too high. Let's also say that on average, 10% of auditions in general result in a booking. Again, that's probably way too high, because that would be saying that out of every 10 actors that got called in, one books the job. And clearly that's not true, because they call in on average far more than 10 actors for every acting job, and only one of them can get it. But again, just for the sake of being generous, we'll say 10%. So basically that means that 1 in every 100 workshops for one individual results in a booking. And let's say that the average booking pays $2,000 for the job, which is basically 2 days' work, minus 10% commission, so that would be $200, resulting in an $1,800 net pay to the actor. And that's before taxes. We're not going to consider taxes here. So since each workshop costs a total of $800, which is 20 actors times $40, and since it takes 5 workshops to generate one booking, because we said 2 actors get called in from each workshop, so 2 times 5 is 10. Each booking costs $4,000, okay, because it's 10 auditions times 10 workshops, which equals 1 booking. So $800 times 5 workshops. But it only pays out $1,800. So it costs about $4,000 to generate $1,800 of total income. So of the $4,000 paid into a workshop, only $1,800 comes out to some actor, resulting in a loss of $2,200. So if you just look at those statistics for one single actor, it'll cost them $4,000 to make $1,800. Now, I'm pretty sure I could put that $4,000 to better use, like maybe taking 40 producers or directors or casting directors out to a nice dinner at a great restaurant. That's $100 times 40, $4,000. 40 fantastic dinners, okay, where you're giving them some wine and a couple of drinks and you're showing them what a great person you are. Tell me that's not going to work out better than spending, well, I'm getting ahead of myself here, so I better catch up with my slides. Do you think you might get further over a 2-hour dinner with someone than you would performing for 2 minutes for 40 different people, basically like a trained chimp? Because basically, you can't go to the same casting director workshop 40 times, which would be better because then at least you'd show the same person 40 times you're acting. Instead, you're showing, you have 2 minutes in front of 40 different people. So, and they're looking at, 20 other people at each workshop. So how are they going to remember who you are? They just won't. And they won't have any idea of what you're like as a person. They won't care about you. But if you spent that money on a bunch of dinners, these people would think of you as a real person. Okay? So think of what you could do with that $4,000. The math is the same for all these activities, more or less. These workshops and other similar random activities are a losing proposition for most actors. And of course, there are always exceptions, but as I will always tell you, don't live your life according to exceptions, okay? Yes, somebody won the lottery, but that's not reason enough to buy lottery tickets, because throughout the course of your life, look at the odds of winning a lottery. Let's say it's 1 in 10 million. Well, that means you'd have to buy, on average, 10 million lottery tickets to expect to win, okay? It doesn't make any sense. Las Vegas is a far better proposition than buying lottery tickets, because the odds in Las Vegas are far lower. Okay, well, not lower odds. I mean, they're lower in your favor. As I said, these are exactly the same as buying lottery tickets. As long as the workshop company can say that one actor every few weeks gets called in, i.e. won the lottery, or heavens to Betsy books a job, I mean, then people just come out of the woodwork. Oh my gosh, so-and-so booked a job from a workshop. I got to go to these things. The rest of the actors will think they're worthwhile. But sadly, no one actually does the math. They just look at their own situation, which might be improved if only. These activities are similar to retail stock investing. Now, again, this is something I know because I've worked in the business and I have tons of friends in the investment banking and retail investing business, and I've invested a ton myself, and I have done the analysis. And really what I'm saying may sound controversial, but it's not. It's just as controversial as what I'm saying about casting director workshops, but it's a good analogy. If the average retail investor makes money, it's because the brokers and bankers couldn't figure out a way to stop them. And that's literally true. Bankers and brokers make it their life's work to squeeze every dollar out of every transaction. Okay, when they do a deal, they're not doing the deal thinking, how can I make people that invest in this money? No, they're thinking about, how can we squeeze as much money out of this? So let's price the IPO as expensively as possible, and let's get because by pricing the IPO as high as possible, they get a commission on the IPO, which is the initial public offering. So that's when a new company goes into the stock market. They don't want to put this thing out and then see it go way up in value, because that means that they're losing. Every dollar it goes up in value from the day it's released to the public is money that they're losing in their commissions. So if they release something for $1 million and they get 7% of that, they get $70,000 on $1 million. Okay, so let's say that thing goes to $2 million in a week, which often happens to IPOs. They go up very quickly. Because whatever, there's so much hype surrounding them, and usually they go up and then they come down just as quickly. I think overall the statistics show that getting an IPO is not any better than buying the stock at regular retail pricing, because it just goes up and then it comes down. But if it goes up to $2 million, then that 7% would have been worth $140,000 instead of $70,000. So the broker, the banker, wants the price to be as high as possible that the market will buy. So if they can figure out that it would have gone to $2 million, they'll price it at $2 million, because that way they'll double their commission, and then they'll release it to the public. Okay? If there's anything left for the client or the retail investor, meaning, you and I, Joe Public, it was only due to a lack of imagination on the part of the banker broker. That's why hedge funds need inside information. That's why these guys are getting arrested left, right, and center for squeezing inside information out of companies. They basically wine and dine these people. They bribe them, whatever you want to call it, to get insider information, because they can't make money off the public information that the rest of us are supposed to be using. The public information that we are supposed to be using tells them not to buy anything. In fact, it's not a good idea to invest in anything, whether it's real estate or stocks or anything else, where you don't control the game. If you're not the dealer, then your chances of making money, again, are just due to a lack of imagination on the part of the seller. Otherwise, you're buying lottery tickets or gambling. The house always wins. So why do people do these workshops and mailings and drop-offs if the house always wins, meaning the organizer always wins, meaning the casting director always wins? Because they think they might get someone an audition or a meeting or a job or an agent. But beyond doing these activities, what are these actors doing for their careers? Well, unfortunately, probably not much, because they've been tricked into believing that these activities work, and they've been told not to do anything else by the very people that do these workshops. If you go to a casting director workshop, the casting director will tell you things that makes their life easier. It doesn't improve your life, it improves their life. Same with an agent. If you go to an agent meeting, they'll tell you, how should I reach you? You know, all the actors sit there and they go, how can we reach you? And casting directors say, send us headshots, send us postcards. In fact, they always say send us postcards, don't send us headshots, because they say they want to know what you've been up to. But the real truth of it is, and I know this from working in casting director offices, is that those postcards, for the most part, never even get seen by a casting director. They get seen by an assistant or by an intern, and those people basically just throw those things in the garbage, because the only things that get treated with any respect at all are headshots that are submitted for a specific role, and it has to say on the headshot what the role is. So, you know, the interns put them in piles, or the assistants put them in piles according to the role, and then they put the headshots in a pile, and then they hand them in piles to the casting director, who goes through them literally, 1 second for each one, and chooses who's going to get called in for an audition. And that's literally how it works, okay? All the little notes you write and the long letters that you write to these casting directors never get seen for the most part. Again, there are exceptions. Maybe somebody got called in off a letter they wrote, but usually they just don't have the time. So, so anyway, like I was saying, same with agents. They say, don't call us, send us your stuff. Well, if you send an agent your stuff, and they don't know who you are, what do you think the chances are you're going to get called in if you don't have some really impressive credits on your resume? What is going to make them call you in when they have no idea who you are? They don't want some stranger in their office without any connection to who you are from anyone they know. Why would they? Would you want some, long line of strangers coming in to spend the day saying, yeah, I want you to represent me? Well, why should I represent you? What have you done? Well, I did this student film and this short film, and I have a reel. Oh, I just watched your reel. Yeah, it's student films and short films. It's kind of bad quality. But, I don't know if I can trust you to perform on a professional set. Okay, so the mentality of these people is, how do I make my life easier? And they actually get paid to instruct newbie actors on how to make their lives easier. And so that's who these things really benefit. They benefit not only financially, they benefit by saving time of casting directors and agents and whoever else comes into these to run these workshops, because they get to tell actors what to do and how to make it really hard to get to them. But anyway, these things, they don't work. And I know what I'm saying can be construed as controversial, but only by the people who put them on. They don't want to hear it. But it's not controversial. It's actually incontrovertible. There's no way you can prove to me that taking these workshops is a winning business. The only people who would have a problem with these statements are the ones who are, of course, putting on the workshops. Why do you think the Attorney General of California has been cracking down on these things for years and years? And they keep trying to change them to make them, not a paid job interview. And they've diluted them to the point that even if they might have worked before, because it was kind of like a paid job interview, you got to talk to them, they got to take your headshot, whatever. Now they have to make them supposedly educational. They're not even allowed to keep your headshot. they're not even supposed to write down your name. It's supposed to be just an educational thing where they tell you something, but they're not supposed to record any of this for their own purposes. So it's even less effective than it ever was. Ironically, workshops are now even less effective than they used to be because the CDs aren't even supposed to be collecting headshots. The workshops are educational only. There is no evidence to suggest that any of these activities actually make you money in the end or get you more acting job. There is, however, plenty of evidence to prove that being career-minded does work and at a far lower cost and in far less time. Just ask any working actor how they achieved success. I don't know anyone that spent, that actually would say, oh yeah, casting directors really improved my career. I'll tell you this, I spent thousands of dollars on casting director workshops. I don't know if I ever got, I can think of at least one occasion when I got called in, didn't book, from one of these workshops. And that's probably out of, I don't know, I might have attended 200 or 300 of them. Because you know what? Success isn't achieved through shortcuts. So please, guys, stop feeding the vampires. They'll only suck you dry. And I think that's it. And, guys, you know what I'm saying. Be career-minded and you will have a career. Thanks a lot.